Hey everybody, welcome back to BackTrekking, the podcast where we look back at the real-world inspirations behind classic episodes of Star Trek. I'm one of your hosts. I'm barely alive. I'm Caliban, and your other host is right over here.
I'm doing okay. I'm kicking. I'm Gooey fame.
It's good to hear. We're part of the Analog Legends Podcast Network, home to the best entertainment from the pre-digital age, with shows about your favorite geeky topics like classic movies, TV shows, classic video games, Disney, wrestling, and more. Find out more at Analog Legends on Twitter. Gooey, how was your 4th?
Pretty good. Well, I didn't do anything that day. I just worked and then went home and couldn't escape the neighbors letting off fireworks, but that's about how every year is. How about you?
Those are your rights as an American, and you celebrated them on the day of our independence.
Yeah. What can you do?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good. Like I mentioned, am very tired. Every July 4th weekend in the Twin Cities, there is a convention called Convergence, and it's been going for over 20 years. It's a fan-run convention featuring all aspects, all types of fan culture, from TV shows to movies to comic books to video games. There's a heavy element and theme of social justice and equality, and there's a lot of programming and panels. There's some great guests, and it's 4 days long. It's Thursday through Sunday. If you want to find out more, it's at convergence-con.org. And so we were doing some programming there for Just Enough Trope, being on some panels, talking about Star Trek, talking about movies, and basically just seeing, like, it's a 4-day con. We had fun, and we did get to go around a little bit, but saw the entire thing from behind a mic, from the inside of a panel.
Right.
Room,
yeah, I was listening to your updates, and it sounded like you were just all over the place. Like, almost every podcast and everything you do seemed represented, too.
Yeah, talked a little bit, about Just Enough Trope, about BackTrekking, Enterprising Individuals, Craft Services. And there was one day on Saturday where I had 3 panels in a row. They're all, an hour panel, and then there's like 30 minutes in between that you can, of passing time. And all 3 of the panels were in the same room. So I just got to a room at noon, and I stayed there until about 5. Yeah.
Any sunlight in there?
No, there was no sunlight.
Great. Okay.
And it was a new hotel that we were in this year, and it was really a nice hotel, and the staff was great. But some of the panel rooms I think they were set up fine. The acoustics were a little weird. So for that entire day, it was both, people couldn't hear me, and I might have been sub-vocalizing a little, but the acoustics were kind of strange. And then we could hear ourselves. So every time you talked, there was a little echo, so you were a little behind. Yeah, so when I finally walked out after 5 hours, I was like, oh, this is how normal people sound. Okay.
Yeah, that I have to, like, rewire my brain if I'm ever in a situation like that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, we had a great time. We have shows for every day of the con, little updates. You can find those on iTunes at Just Enough Trope or at justenough-trope.com. And then we did a live show. We did a live episode of Enterprising Individuals talking about Star Trek 2009, which we'll finagle it somehow. We'll talk about that movie on this show someday. But we did a live episode concerning that, and that is available on our Facebook. If you go to Facebook /Just Enough Trope. And also check us out at enterprisingindividuals.com.
That's awesome. I have to check that out.
Plugs done for those other shows. This is a different network, though, and we're talking about this. And usually we talk about the news at this point in the show before we get to our feature, but screw the news. I want to talk about something else. Do you have a Nintendo Switch, Gooey?
I sure do, yeah.
Would you recommend a Nintendo Switch to somebody who doesn't have one?
I personally love my Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Do you play games on a Switch? Do you have a Switch?
I do not. Is it a good replacement for, say, a PlayStation Vita?
I think, here's my thing is I think it's better because you can play Nintendo games on it.
It's also newer. It's like, is it a good replacement for, that stick and that loop that kids would have? They just run down the street and make the loop go with the stick.
I would say it's better than stick and loop and ball and cup.
Okay, ball and cup.
Yeah.
It's neck and neck with paddle.
I think it's a great console. I think there's a lot of issues that people have taken with it in various major or minor forms, but for me, all in all, it's amazing. It's like one of my favorite consoles I've ever owned. So,
do you often use the detachable feature? You know, the plug and play. You can do handheld, and you put it into your dock, and you're back on your TV.
Oh, absolutely. Because when I first got it, I never took it out. It was just a console. Then, more lately, the past year or so, it's been I only play it handheld in bed, and and then now I mentioned last episode I went out and recorded some in Michigan with my bandmates. I brought it with me, and I would, between like other people doing their takes and stuff, would just detach the controllers and just set it up on a little, like on an amp or something, and just play like a little mini console there too. So yeah, it's pretty versatile. There's no, in the trailers they show people taking it to like a rooftop party. That's probably never going to happen.
Yeah, right. Very trendy people. Yeah.
I'm a big fan. You thinking about getting one?
I'm trying to talk the girlfriend into getting one, and I wish I had it this week because we basically took the week off after Convergence because it's such a thing to prepare for us and to do. And then at the end of this week, we are going to a different convention in Maryland, excuse me, called Shore Leave. And it is nominally a Star Trek convention, but it is, it also has to do with other sci-fi, fantasy, nerdy properties. And many of the authors and personalities that I have talked to on the show, Enterprising Individuals, will be there. And so it's just 3 days of talking to Star Trek authors and personalities and going to panels, talking about nerdy stuff. Some of the stars will be there. Anson Mount and Ethan Peck from Star Trek Discovery will be there. And so we're just trying to chill out and get ready for that. And I've been just trying to play video games. And you can get to a point where you're so busy and stressed that you sit down to say, I don't know, Fish and Red Dead Redemption 2.
Right.
And you get 5 minutes in and you start looking over your shoulder like, so I'm not doing something. So I got to do something, right? I can't just sit here and relax and do this. So I think if I was planning on getting a Switch for this week and I didn't get around to it, but I would have just been playing that all this week.
Yeah, I mean, it would be perfect for that. Because, too, as well, there's, like, a bunch of games that are easy to just kind of, like, dip into for a couple minutes, which is perfect for if you've got to, like, pull out your boarding pass for your plane real quick, like, do actual things. You can put it in sleep mode, and then come back to it, and it'll be right. Even, like, bigger games like Zelda or whatever, it's like you can, it's such an easy game and console to just like pick up and put down whenever. So,
and the aforementioned girlfriend is not much of a full-time gamer. So are there games and apps and stuff like that she would be able to, that she'd find easy to pick up?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, there's a lot of, I think Nintendo does a good job of, making stuff that can appeal to like wider demographics than just like the hardcore gamer audience, I would say. Sure. I would say on that front, when there's games that have come to Switch that are like on PS4 or Xbox or whatever, it does like kind of fall behind from a technical perspective. So that's maybe a flaw if you're looking to play, I don't know, like Mortal Kombat or something on there, or, some big adventure game. It's probably not going to be as good on the Switch, but for the portability and the wider appeal, I would say it's pretty good.
I like it when devices have a touch screen, and I want like everything that has a screen to be touchable these days. And I also like it when you've got it in a portable, but I don't like it when they kind of force it on you. That was one of the things that I liked about and hated about the Vita, is that it's got a touch screen and then a touch surface on the back. And for some games, they'd find really interesting and innovative ways to use that capability. And other times it's like, I could just be pushing X to punch, but you want me to like tap the screen to punch for some reason. And it's just not, I don't have a prehensile tongue or like a really long nose, so I'm not going to be doing that.
I would say, yeah, with the Switch, I can't think of a game where it's ever intrusive like that. But it is really nice to like, if you need to like type in something, like it's, I want to search for a YouTube video on there. It's nice to have that little touch screen there. But yeah, there's no games that I have played where I have ever been like, it's not like playing DS games or something where it's like, I don't want to tap the screen to do this.
I got to blow on it. I have to yell at it. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Okay, well, I guess I'll give an update maybe later. It seems like I'm on the track to getting a Switch. This is starting to become the sponsored portion. It seems like we talk about some product at this point in the show. So potential sponsors, if you're out there, we're already pretty good at it.
Yeah, we've got room about your stuff. We've clearly got room on the show to talk about your products. So
we've scheduled it in. So yeah. Well, let's get into our featured subject for today's show. Our entire premise of this show is that some things are so good that people keep remaking them or referencing them over and over. And today we're talking about a property that's so good it was remade 4 times after it was adapted from a book. It's fitting for a story about aliens who are making replicas of hapless people. It's Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
They come from a dying world. They drift through the universe, pushed on by the solar winds. They adapt, and they survive. The function of all life is survival. Sleep, sleep, sleep. From deep space, sleep. The seed is planted. Sleep, sleep. Terror grows. Sleep.
Matthew!
Like the others.
Elizabeth, wake up! Get you when you sleep. Sit up!
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
It's got no detail, no character. It's unformed.
All of a sudden, they're growing like parasites. Is it contagious? People are being duplicated.
How do you know my name? I didn't tell you my name.
I can't find anything in here that looks like a body.
My side's nosebleed.
It looked right at me.
You're looking at it as if it was human. It was not human.
Now, the classic fear begins to grow.
We're being cornered.
In a modern masterpiece of science fiction.
They're barricading the street.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Get down!
Starring Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Leonard Nimoy. Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
So what's interesting, I think, about remaking it all those times is that, there's always going to be something that it can speak to from that decade, too. Some kind of, fear of something that it can play into.
Yeah. The original novel, The Body Snatchers, by Jack Finney, is from 1955. And I think that there is, clearly the just baked in to the setting, communist menace taking over kind of theme. But there is also a theme, I think, of environmentalism there that's nascent at that point, but I think still growing. I think in the book, it's explicitly stated that the aliens live for a very short time and they can't reproduce in any way. They'll only by, making a pod. So in a few short years, Earth will basically just be used up and all the life will be gone and they'll just move somewhere else.
Oh, okay. That's a cool spin on it. Or that's not even the spin. That's the initial take. But, yeah, okay. Yeah, I like that.
And they turned that around, of course, really fast into a movie in 1956, starring, of course, Kevin McCarthy. And I think that just basically was, a fairly faithful translation, heavily leaning on the whole, they could be anywhere, those reds.
Right. And then do you know how much what we watched differs from that or the book?
It's been a long time since I've seen the original, and I've never read the book. I think they are similar in a lot of ways. There's a sort of general town. It's like a made-up town that's based on a real town, I think, in the first movie. This, of course, takes us directly to San Francisco in the 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers film.
Okay.
And that's what we're focusing on today. Of course, it's starring Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Jeff Goldblum, and look at that, Veronica Cartwright. She's back.
That's not who I was expecting you to name there, but yeah.
If you had a movie in the 70s or early 80s where you needed somebody to just lose their shit and completely fall apart, you called up Veronica Cartwright.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she knocked that out of the park, I would say.
Yes. And of course it stars also Leonard Nimoy, who
there we go.
in a role that I read that he was trying to like shake the whole typecasting of Dr. Spock. Not Dr. Spock, of course. I make fun of people for making that mistake, and I just did it myself. So,
well, he was the doctor in this, right? So.
Yeah, me and the Beasties are in good company. He was trying to shake the whole Spock image. I think I don't remember when I Am Not Spock was published, but I think it was around this time. And he ends up playing an emotionless doctor in the film, so nice work there.
Yeah, but he's kind of
all the turtlenecks in the world aren't going to help you with that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he was cool, though. He was so cool in this. But in I hate this guy.
Yeah. He's Dr. Gaslight.
Yep. Oh, 100%. He's got that glove.
I don't know what the bowling glove. I have no idea what that is, and I don't know. I guess I didn't look super hard, but I could not figure out like what that was. Like, is it orthopedic or what?
Well, so I was watching this, and then Kayla, my partner, came in and just started like looking up trivia about the movie and telling me it while I was watching it, and I'm like, okay. And there was some piece of trivia where I feel like Nimoy just wanted
the doctor, right?
The doctor. He just wanted something like cool that would like stand out, and he said I think he knew someone who like wore one of those to cover up like a burn on their hand or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it just makes him kind of strange.
Yeah, it gives him a bit of an edge.
Yeah. Edge.
To me, it worked, but in a different way, where I'm like, yeah, this guy's weird.
Yeah, it is definitely strange, as much of this movie is. Of course, it was made again in 1993 by Abel Ferreira as Body Snatchers, and then there was that 2007 adaptation with Nicole Kidman and somebody else. Was that the one that Nicolas Cage was in? I can't remember. It's called The Invasion.
I don't think I've seen either of the 90s or the 2000 one.
The 90s one is okay. It's a little weird.
Okay.
And I've not seen the Nicole Kidman one.
Well, I like Nicole Kidman, so.
I do as well. Although I think much of her 2000s work is pretty...
Yeah, that's fair. Totally.
Except for like The Hours or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, this movie's just like... when I think about Donald Sutherland, I love Donald Sutherland. He's one of my favorite 70s stars. He's got that sort of goofy... sexy maybe charm of like the 70s, like people like him and people like him and like Elliot Gould, these unlikely sex symbols of the 70s.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think when I was watching this was like, is he hot? Like, I don't like, does this movie think he's hot?
He's funny, he can cook, he's got a car, he's gonna get the windshield fixed. I mean, what else do you need?
Yeah, he's like a health inspector, right? Like,
yeah, I know.
That's a cool like I can't imagine like Chris Pratt playing like a health inspector in a movie. That's what we get today.
I can't. I'm trying harder than I thought I would to think of that. We've seen him work in government, I guess, in Parks and Recreation,
right?
But it's such a weird choice because I heard that originally they didn't know what to do with him as they were sort of putting it together, and I think they wanted him to be like a jazz musician at one point. Yeah, and like, just and not really have like a job, but instead they went in a different direction and had him be. It's kind of goofy. Like if he was like he's a cop or he's an FBI, he's busting counterfeiters. And then now he's onto the trail of these aliens. They make him like responsible and efficient, but it's not. It's something really trivial. He's looking for rat turds, in the rice or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly loved it though. Like it did make me feel like when he's getting chased around for most of this movie, like that he is more likely in peril than like. Someone who I think could like psychically talk to velociraptors or whatever,
Yeah, right. Yeah. He's just a goofy kind of guy who gets in over his head. But then he kind of goes sicko mode on it, He gets that axe and he's like
Truly.
blowing things up. He's like throwing people off of buildings and...
Oh, yeah. He's got big freak energy like we were talking about. Yeah. Big freak energy going sicko mode. That's what they should have called this movie.
Yeah, that was the subtitle, the working title.
Yeah.
The opening sequence of this film is iconic, and it was achieved with many of the, if not all of the effects, were achieved with very practical effects. Of course, they didn't really have computer effects back then, but they weren't doing like a lot of paintings or a lot of trickery. A lot of it's in camera. The opening scene is just some gelatinous sort of material that they kind of worked up, mixed with a little paint. And of course, we see this very otherworldly. For the rest of this movie will be incredibly mundane, and it's supposed to be. We're just eating stir fry, in San Francisco and going to the mud bath. But for on purpose, we start in the cosmos with planets and strange music and these globular things that are being picked up and sort of carried and flying across the universe until they land on Earth in the rain. And it reminded me of. Did you ever see the movie Bowfinger?
I don't think so. No.
Steve Martin plays a hack movie producer who really wants to make an official movie. This premise is going to get so sweaty. I'm not even done yet. And he wants a star played by Eddie Murphy, playing Eddie Murphy, basically like middle period Eddie Murphy. He wants this guy in his movie, but he won't do it. He finds out that Eddie Murphy has a twin brother, who he basically hires to play his brother in the film. And the film inside the film is a Body Snatchers-esque tale called Chubby Rain.
Chubby Rain. That's good. I remember I totally caught this movie on Comedy Central as a kid, I think.
Right. Yeah.
It's one of those movies.
So that's what that reminds me of. And I love
it.
I love the effects at the beginning when the rain is falling on the leaves, and then we see the tendrils spreading out in an effect that, you can figure out that they're just pulling them back and they run it in reverse, but it's very creepy, and it's just very insidious the way that these little tendrils sort of go out around the leaves of the plant.
Yeah, I thought the whole beginning sequence you described was so beautiful. I just wasn't expecting that to happen and to be so captivating, and I got sucked into this movie right away because of it, and I don't think I would have if it just had started without that.
Yeah,
it sets the tone.
All the evil, the tone is very one of my paranoia, and all the evil or the sort of treacherousness is all on screen. It's just very subtle. The leaves and the flowers that we described in the very first scene, or the first scene on Earth. The teacher's like, all right, kids, go out and pick up some flowers. Go ahead and take them home. And you realize later when you understand what's going on, oh, she was in on it from the very beginning. She's trying to spread this. We cut to the playground, right, and we see a priest on a swing set played by Robert Duvall.
Oh, what? Really?
Yes. The priest on the swing set is Robert Duvall in, I believe, an uncredited cameo. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that just passed me by, I guess.
Philip Kaufman, the guy that directed this, has directed a couple other really great films, and one of them was what's it called again? The Minnesota. I live in Minnesota, so I should know the answer to it. It's the Northfield, the great Northfield, Minnesota raid that Robert Duvall was in. And so I think he was just like, hey, you want to be in a movie? And he's like, all right. And so they put him in a priest costume on the swing. He's supposedly the first pod person that we see, although I would argue that I think the teacher's probably in on it too. And then I guess he was paid with a nice coat, an Eddie Bauer coat.
Oh, worth it.
Yeah. I don't know how the union works, but I think it's just one of those things where it's just get in there, just get in the shot.
I like that pod person's maybe first action as a pod person was hey, let's go swinging.
Yeah, I'm a priest. Let's head out to that playground. That's fine. That's
what a priest would do, probably. Seems like it.
Yeah, I don't see a problem there.
Yeah, you were talking about you kind of see what's going on there, and you the whole movie. It's what's going on. It's not I don't think it's ever trying to shock or surprise you, except for the ending maybe. And yeah. I found that even more compelling, actually, because it's just the whole time you're this is gonna happen, this is horrible, somebody stop this, please.
Yeah, but it just seems so inevitable the whole time. There's all these subtle touches of paranoia that you would dismiss in a different movie but definitely mean something here, or you learn that they mean something. There's a lot of shots that are just kind of verite on the street, and you figure, oh, maybe people are just extras. Extras don't know how to behave on camera, or they don't know they're on camera. And so sometimes you'll see somebody kind of standing in the middle of a shot or just walking around. But this, like, that's planned. Like, it'll cut to the side, and there's a person just standing in the middle of the street or the sidewalk with a strange look on their face. Yeah. When he is first talking to our Brooke Adams character, and they're in the hallway behind the like frosted glass door, there's a guy who's like looking through the window at them, and it's like, what is this guy? Did he not know they were shooting or something? No, that's all planned. And of course there's the garbage trucks that we see throughout the movie, who are full of this sort of web-like, dusty material, disposing of it, that I think we learn later is the former bodies of the people who have been replaced.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, there would be times where it's just like, it's like sometimes it's like intentionally like you're supposed to notice it. And there were times where I feel like there was actually nothing. It'd be like someone looking out a window or something. It's like you kind of see the street in the background. And I'm just like, my eyes are darting. Like, is there someone doing something weird out there?
Right, yeah.
It's like maybe a third of the time there was, but I loved it. The paranoia so well baked into the movie.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the decade for that. I mean, especially after Watergate, people didn't trust the government, trust anybody, and so there's a lot of stories and fiction about conspiracies and secret takeovers and things like that, and this is right up that alley.
Sure, yeah.
I love the fact that we are introduced to the Brooke Adams character's live-in boyfriend as, Jeffrey. He's like this total slob, and you kind of wonder, like, why she's with him. But it's all set up so later on he's wearing a 3-piece suit, and something's different. Jeffrey is not Jeffrey.
Yeah, I was like, is this movie going to be about her relationship? And it wasn't really. But,
no. Well, it is.
Right.
It is in a way. I think in a lot of ways this is a love story. This is a story about two coworkers who are attracted to each other but are platonic, and this this traumatic event that pushes them closer together. It just doesn't end the way that you'd want a love story to end.
Yeah, I felt a little unfulfilled by that. I like the weird smooch they had under the desk they were hiding under or whatever.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's just this weird sort of stolen sort of sweet moment in the midst of this horrible alien takeover of Earth.
Yeah. Wasn't sure if it was sexy or not, but
I wasn't either. But you'd have to ask Dr. Kibler about that. He's got a lot of ideas about relationships.
Oh yeah.
I love the fact that they go to this book party, and this is, of course, the 70s. So this is like the era of like pop psychology, like it really exploding. And I love the fact that everybody's there. Of course, we learn later that like probably most of those people are pod people, but they're all there to just see him like do a counseling on the fly, basically, like do his psychological Band-Aid. It's like, he's almost like I need a name. I need an occupation. Yeah. He's like a psychic or something like that. And he's trying to get this lady to, she's like, he's not my husband. And he's like, no, it's fine. Don't you want to aren't you looking for a way out? Can I gaslight you some more about this? Go home with this alien. Come on.
Yeah. And I like that she like empathized with this like stranger. Like that was a cool little element there. Yeah. And then he was like trying to gaslight her out of it. Yeah. I liked the little like, I would say there's like a lot of like little almost like mini stories or like story pieces throughout this that between like Jeff Goldblum and him too. Like
I know, like when Goldblum comes by and he's talking to her, and then he grabs Goldblum and he's like, "What's your problem? Come on, what's going on with this? Give it up." And then, how did that make you feel? Like it just feels like weird, primal scream, like alternative therapy bullshit that you have in the 70s. Like, what if I just assaulted a stranger? How are you reacting to that? Aren't you shrinking away because you're afraid of things? It's like, what are you talking about? You're insane.
Well, you think I'm an asshole? Yeah, I mean, yeah. But yeah, there was all these like story morsels that I feel like were just like weird little tidbits that I just, they're little snacks along the way.
Yeah. And it's 43 minutes. I timed it. It's 43 minutes before they even see anything that is alien. It's in the mud bathhouse when they find the cocooned Jeff Goldblum character. That's the first time that they know that they're not just dealing with, Brooke Adams is tired or whatever. Or her boyfriend is acting weird.
That's actually like up until that point is like my favorite section of the movie. Honestly, though.
Oh yeah, I kind of liked it too. I kind of liked the paranoia and the sort of the so 70s kind of overlapping dialogue and just sort of naturalistic acting. Like that's great. The paranoia running around on the wharf and stuff, that's fun too. But I did like I think the first half of the movie better.
Yeah, I just liked. I mean, like I was saying, maybe not from a story perspective. I just liked how it was like. I like the like aesthetic exercise they were going through there with like showing all the stuff and the pop psychology and like Leonard Nimoy looking cool.
Yeah. I like the fact that once Jack, the Goldblum character, is taken over, like he's still a dick. He's just sort of a more measured, emotionless dick. Like when they come in on them and they're in the lab, and he's like, "If you guys had just let us go to sleep, it would have been fine." Like he's just like a total asshole, but he's an alien asshole now.
Yeah, I think I loved his performance too. I think this is like the youngest I've ever seen Jeff Goldblum.
Oh yeah,
in a movie myself. And
have you ever seen Annie Hall?
Nah, not in a long time.
He's not in it for long. Yeah, he's
okay.
Just a little cameo, but it's probably one of his earliest roles. Alvy goes to a party and it's supposed to be everything that you've heard, all the stereotypes about LA. And then at the tail end of one scene, we see Jeff Goldblum on the phone and he's like, "Yeah, hello? Yeah, I've forgotten my mantra." Like that's his line.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, no, I don't remember that. I remember him in, what was it? Oh, in Death Wish. I remember him being in that.
Oh, wow. That's going back. Yeah.
Good stuff, though. Yeah. I like young Goldblum.
What do you think this film is about? Like, if it's a remake or an update of the book and the 50s film, it's the 70s, the communists in Red Russia exist, but I mean, we're not quite as afraid of them as we used to be. So what do you think, like, it's trying to say?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to like put together while I was watching it, because there, like I said, there were all those like little bits and like sort of story threads, but I was like, I don't think it's about any of those things specifically.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking like, oh, is it still about like fear of communists, or like maybe it's just like conformity in general? Like I don't think it really was too strong in like actually being about anything other than like being freaked out that there might be bad people out there. I don't know, Yeah, I don't think it really fully hits its mark, but then I was also considering like, oh, maybe you just had to like be alive then in the 70s to know,
I think it's still nominally about all those themes and about the dangers of conformity or just society trying to make you fit a mold. And I think it's not, I mean, I was going to say, I think that it's a pessimistic film, but of course it is if it ends with the entire world being taken over. But I think it's pessimistic in the way that in the 70s there was all these ideas, like we talked about pop psychology, I am okay, you're okay, different religions and TM and all these other, people trying to individuate in an exponential way. And I think that its message is like, none of that stuff is going to save you, or like even in trying to be different, you are just it's about being basic is what I'm saying. Like you think that you are being so different, but you're not. And that is itself very pessimistic. I think the optimistic core of the film, though, is, of course, our characters who are all oddballs. And I think it's also saying that it's the oddballs who have the best chance of getting out of this. Like Veronica Cartwright is positioned as, the hippy-dippy, what you think of as a crunchy granola San Francisco person. But she's the one who's read Chariots of the Gods or whatever, or Worlds in Collision. And she's the one that goes, it's like aliens. And people are like, aliens? What are you talking about? She's totally right. She's right for super goofy reasons, but she was right.
Yeah. I remember them like picking up, because, sometimes I feel like people complain about that in these kind of movies where it's like, oh, they're not like picking up on all the red flags. Like, what a bunch of dummies,
They've never seen a movie like this. Yeah.
Obviously it takes like a while for them to actually think about it, but it's like they don't actually experience anything for a while. But I like that interpretation of, you know, like maybe it's the weirdos who will be the ones to figure this out. I felt like maybe it didn't have like an explicit like here's what the movie is about, and more like presenting themes and then being kind of like it's up to you to kind of like put it together in maybe the way you have, which I like.
We mentioned Robert Duvall. There's a couple other cameos in the film. Kevin McCarthy, of course, has a cameo as his character from the first film, maybe. I think that Kaufman said that was intended as sort of a spiritual sort of cameo. Like he wasn't supposed to literally be the guy from the first movie, but since, of course, the first movie ends with him coming right into the camera, you're next, it'll be you. Him doing that in this film was sort of his way of connecting the two.
Okay, that's pretty cool, actually. I mean, yeah, that's awesome. And
then the director of the original film, Don Siegel, appears as the cab driver that's going to take them to the airport.
Oh, lots of little cameos in here that I didn't notice.
And I like when he picks him up and he's doing like the cabbie talk stuff, and it could be just regular cabbie chat. You know, he's getting a little too, I don't really want to talk to my Uber driver. Please don't talk to me. But it could be something else. And when he picks them up, I noticed for the first time ever on this viewing that he's like, taking 2 passengers to the airport, code H.
Okay.
Possibly for H for human.
Human, yeah. I liked, like, that was back to what we were talking about of, like, you know, just seeing like shots of people like going about their day, and it's like trying to figure it out. I mean, obviously that's a little bit more explicit there, but
yeah.
I would have, I don't know, I would have liked even more of that as opposed to like the running around at the end. I felt like, you know, okay, they're running away from all the monsters.
Yeah, I think that's a factor of 2 things. One, I think that it being a foregone conclusion, because it really turns after everybody takes a nap and now there's like 4 slimy replicas in the garden. Mm-hmm. Like that's really the turning point where I feel like, okay, we're not going to get out of this. I don't think there's any way out of this. And so for the rest of it, we're just seeing the extent of, instead of just suggesting it, we're taking a big budget movie and we're showing what it would look like if aliens were now going to very calmly in a very organized manner just take over, you know, the Western seaboard. But like, yeah, if it was done, but in the 70s, that was fine. If you did it today, you definitely need a spaceship crash, you know, or something else to give the third act a little more drive.
Yeah. And I just felt like, yeah, like you were saying, the plot kind of ends there a little bit. And
yeah,
then,
it's pretty much over. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just felt like them running from one location to a next. And I would have liked maybe, you know, I don't know. I'm not going to nitpick this movie too much.
You're not going to nitpick one of the best science fiction movies of all time.
Yeah. I loved it.
About the plot and the ending, apparently McCarthy and Siegel, the star and director of the original film, had worked with Kaufman and talked about coming up with a different ending, because I think nominally they were just going to do a similar thing, which was, oh no, they're everywhere, look out, you're next. Mm-hmm. And they thought, well, that's not quite good enough. So he had talked to them, and after talking to them, came up with the idea of course, our hero being turned as well. And when he came up with that, apparently the only person that he told was the screenwriter, the producer, and then Sutherland, of course, himself. And he only told Sutherland like the night before they shot that scene. Oh,
yeah. So that reaction that she gives is genuine.
Which Veronica Cartwright is, speaking of gaslighting, is her entire movie career just people not telling her what's going to happen and then just rolling the camera.
Yeah, I think, you know,
whether
I think
it's
if you dig into
alien blood or
oh, right.
Yeah. Or if it's Donald Sutherland going, does she ever know what's going on?
You know, I think if you dig into a lot of classic Hollywood stories of how like actresses and actors were treated, it's like there's some questionable stuff.
Well, going all the way back to our first episode, hooking Alan Rickman up to the fall rig for the end of Die Hard, and apparently when Hans Gruber falls off the Nakatomi Tower, not only is it Christmas, but also it scared the shit out of him because they told him they drop it on 3 and they dropped it on 2. So when you see that look on his face, like he doesn't know what's going on.
Oh, Alan.
As a former actor, we can do it. We can act. That's literally what we get paid for. Just tell us what to do. You don't have to create these situations.
Yeah, right. It's like just trust in them a little bit. I think all forms of pranks are wrong, including pranking actors.
Now I know. Now I wonder if that moment between Nimoy and Goldblum was planned, or if Nimoy was just like, "I'm gonna go cinema verite on this fucker. Come here."
Well, yeah, that's like double layers of meta there too.
Yeah. And also talking about the end, I do love the fact, I mean, we don't have to see exactly how it happens. We know that when people fall asleep, like, that's it. So anytime a character leaves the screen, we should worry about them. And when Sutherland disappears, then he shows up at work the next day, I think we already kind of know where it's going. But I did like that one shot in the lab. There's a flask that has a solution in it, and there's a magnetic stirrer or a magnetic mixer in it, which is, I don't know if they probably use these still, but we had one in like junior high when I was a kid, and it's a little magnetic pill. It's a little pill with with iron in it, and you put it on the surface, and there's an oscillating magnet in there, so it turns and it'll spin and stir the solution, so you can do something else. And the camera focuses in on this thing in that last shot in the lab, and it slowly stops, and then it finally comes to rest. And for me, maybe I'm reading too much into the metaphor, but that thing is like an agitator, and that agitator has literally stopped. So now all resistance, all movement is over. Even Sutherland has been taken over at this point.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. I didn't know what was going on there. I must have never done that experiment.
Anything else you want to say about the film? I think it's pretty cut and dried, but in my opinion, it is one of the best sci-fi films ever made.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It holds up really well. It's, that ending, I think it really works. Well for what it's doing. It, sometimes a movie will end kind of on a downer like that, and I'm just like, oh, that was cheap or whatever, but it works really well there, I think.
Yeah. There is one point early in the film where Donald Sutherland is talking to Brooke Adams, and she's trying to figure out why Jeffrey's acting weird, and he says, well, I don't know, I mean, he could be having an affair, or be gay, have a social disease, or be a Republican, which is like, okay, I understand the crafting of the line, but I don't want you to equate being gay with having an affair, having a social disease, or being a Republican.
Yeah, those are all very different.
Yes, right. But at the same time, I thought it was pretty progressive because he didn't have a problem with the guy being gay. It's San Francisco. He was just saying,
he's just trying to figure it out.
He's made a lifestyle change. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
At least he's not a Republican.
Yeah. At least that was the last thing they mentioned.
On a scale of worst or best to worst.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody hasn't seen this film, and I don't know how you can't, it is available to Amazon Prime members. This is where I'd slot in the Amazon Prime sponsorship. We don't have one, though. But yeah, if you've got Prime, it's easy to watch. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. They've got a great HD version on Prime, and it's your own fault. Do it. Be like us.
Join us.
Join us. Stop agitating. Well, with that, let's take a break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more BackTrekking.
Your Honor, a courtroom is a crucible. In it we burn away irrelevancies until we are left with a pure product, the truth, for all time.
Oh man, this is so intense. Data's on trial for his life.
I know. This episode, The Measure of a Man, is based on the Supreme Court's Dred Scott decision of 1857.
And every week on BackTrekking, we take a look at the real-world events that inspired classic Star Trek episodes. Sorry.
Shut up!
Shh. Who are you?
We're the hosts of BackTrekking. I'm Caliban.
You will both be taken to the brig and from there to the nearest starbase, where you will answer charges for what you have done.
And I'm Gooey Fame.
This is not a game. This is life and death.
You can follow us on Twitter.
BackTrekking is available wherever you listen to podcasts.
You go f*** yourself.
All right, we're back. It's time to talk about the Trek side of this equation, specifically about the 1991 episode of Star Trek The Next Generation entitled The Game.
A harmless game becomes a dangerous addiction.
What if someone's trying to use the game for some purpose other than pleasure?
And the crew fall victim to its evil hypnotic powers.
We can't trust anyone anymore, not even the captain.
Can Wesley rescue the crew from total mind control? Or is he next?
We've got him, Captain.
Let go of me!
High-tech nightmare on the next exciting episode of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Not the rapper of the game.
No, but just as
Nobody's
almost
seen
as
him for a
iconic.
while. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It would be easy to screw these two up, but no, we're talking about the TNG episode The Game, which first aired on October 28th of 1991, and it's part of the 5th season. And I think that, like, the 5th season is... at this point in Next Generation, like they're clicking. You know, they've really got their shit down. Even if an episode is bad, it's going to be pretty well produced. And coming in the early part of the 5th season here, I think that this is a pretty good one, or at least it's a clean hour of TNG Trek.
Yeah, it's not as, I think when we were talking about watching this, I was like kind of dogging on it a little bit, and then I think you said like, oh, I remember having fun with this one. And then I watched it this time and I was like, yeah, that was fun. I don't know what turned me off about it the last time I watched it.
Possibly Wesley, but who knows?
Oh, well, that still played a little bit of a factor. I got to be honest. I was more annoyed by Wesley in this than I was the whole like or like him as a young kid, you know?
Okay.
Maybe it's just because like teenagers
those tween years, they're tough. Yeah, they're tough for us to watch.
They're awkward. But that's what his character would be. So what can I say?
Yeah, we finally got rid of this kid. Now he's back doing guest spots. But in this episode, a strange game is brought to the Enterprise by Riker. In a lot of ways, it kind of comes off, we were talking about social diseases before, it kind of comes off like Riker caught something on Risa, and now he's spreading it to the whole ship.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we always knew Riker on Risa would come back to bite them.
Right, yeah. Every time he comes back, that Chief O'Brien has to double bag the biofilter on the transporter.
You talk about
make sure.
inevitabilities.
Yeah. This was the first episode that was written, or at least the teleplay and part of the story was by Brannon Braga, who'd go on, of course, to be creator of later Star Trek shows, writer and producer, and one of the pillars of the franchise. But I think this was his first full-time job at TNG.
Wow.
Yeah. The story is also by Susan Sackett and Fred Bronson. Fred Bronson was a writer who submitted an episode to the animated series and then also worked on later series. And Susan Sackett was a writer who contributed story ideas and was also Roddenberry's personal assistant. And yeah, I think that Braga did say specifically that this episode came from Body Snatchers. Like that was kind of the original sort of pitch. And how do we port that into our universe? I think they were looking for more straight up like sci-fi plots. So let's take that idea and stick it on the Enterprise.
Right. And it's cool because it's like it's influenced, but they also did their own spin on it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
As opposed to some stuff we've talked about, which I still think is cool too, but where it's like, yeah, they just kind of like lifted the movie and pasted the Star Trek characters into it.
As we were getting ready for this or talking about what episodes we were going to do, I was thinking that in a lot of ways, like the first season episode Conspiracy really reminded me of Body Snatchers.
Yes, yeah.
And I thought that maybe that would be better, but the more I think about it and then having watched them both, it's definitely this. Like the whole taking over plot it's almost more of like a Puppet Masters thing. But this is totally, come on, everybody's doing it. You know, this is the Body Snatchers thing for sure.
Yeah, when I was watching Body Snatchers, I thought of Conspiracy too, but it's more of just the surface level, what's happening.
Yeah.
And then watching this, it's like, oh, the mechanics of it are like so similar.
And they both have, in this case, Nimoy, or in this case, for the game, Riker, as that kind of patient zero who is sort of the instigator. Although in Conspiracy, Riker's a victim of it just like everybody else. Whereas in Conspiracy, you've got the character of Remick, who seems to be guiding like this whole invasion. Right.
And you know, in this, it was kind of hard to, like, I guess it was just kind of interesting because it seemed like anyone could be, susceptible to it. Because like even even Picard did it.
Yeah, which I got to give props to the director Corey Allen. There's a couple different things where you have come to expect a certain progression of like story beats, a certain language of a TNG episode. So you expect, this is where we're going to get some help from Captain Picard or somebody else. And there's a couple different moments where it's like, no, it's them too. And they hide it and reveal it pretty well. In their staging.
It's so good when he does it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought at that, like up until then, or I knew this was going to happen, but I thought before we rewatched it and talked about what it was based on that it was going to tie into like video games in real life and be like a commentary about them.
Sure.
And like maybe, some like, 80s fear mongering about video games, or I guess 90s at this point.
Right.
But like, I don't know. Then it's like if Picard can get into it, I don't think it has anything to do with like video game addiction or anything.
That brings up a couple different sort of themes or points that I wanted to touch on. One is, I think the strange point of connection in between this and Body Snatchers is that you've got the counterculture heroes of the first movie who are trying to get away from this conformity, but also the aliens themselves go, this is freedom. You're looking for freedom. You're looking for an end to war, make love, not war, and peace and all that. We're bringing this, but it's not what you want. So there's an inversion there. And then in this, you'd think like, okay, it's the early 90s. Video games are becoming a big thing. They're becoming a cultural thing. So you'd think that the teenager would be the one playing video games all the time, but he doesn't want to do it. He just wants to do science and not play the video game, which is like a total opposite of what you would expect.
I mean, it's a cool inversion, I guess, on what you would expect. And I guess it's them maybe trying to project far into the future and what they think, kids will be like then, will they care about these things as much, or is it just something everyone could be into?
I suppose. Do you think that this game, first of all, like nobody's really freaked out by a game that shoots lasers into your eyes. So there must be games like this in their world. Do you think that this game that is, portable is like their Switch, where the holodeck would be more like the PS4 or something like that?
That's what I was trying to figure out. Well, because whenever they show it to someone, they're like, "What is it?" And they're like, "Oh, it's a game." Like it feels like there's some explanation, like some explaining to do,
But at the same time, like before they know the truth, the horrible truth behind the game, like Robin Leffler's like, it's just a game, and there's going to be another game next week, and there's maybe it's because she's more plugged into like young youth culture because she's a young person. Like she doesn't seem really that impressed by it.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe it's because I feel like it's like because it's someone they trust, like showing them it. That maybe there's like they're probably open to new technology. So it's like this shoots laser beams into your eyes, but like if Riker's telling you it's okay, like I would trust Riker. So
yeah. How does it work on Geordi though? That's what I want to know. How can Geordi be affected at all?
Oh well, maybe it's got a different interface.
It shoots ultraviolet into his eyes. Yeah,
I did think even with that inversion, it did kind of come down to like the nerds who do their homework and like don't like to have any fun, save the day from the video game players. I don't know if they intended that, but
and just going off of that total inversion. First of all, it's like here's a young man hanging out with young Ashley Judd. And what he wants to do is sit on a bed with her and pretend to make sex sounds, but not like, they're pretending to have fun and to have pleasure. And it's like, no, we've got business to do. It's not this far, but it's almost like the episode Rascals where the adult crew members are turned into kids, and so the kids are like, we've got to figure out this mission and get rid of these fuckers. But they're just children,
Right. Yeah. Them laying on the bed and pretend, or just thinking about what the game does to them too, makes me think that it has nothing to do with commentary on video games, or at least it was made by people who don't understand video games. Because
this pushes the social disease element of it forward.
Yeah, but I
also... we get to see Riker's O-face in this episode. We get to see a lot of O-faces in this episode.
But I feel like... It feels like what the game does, or like the game itself, is only like half responsible by how like horny and brain controlled they become, because it seems like they are like immediately addicted to it.
Right,
From like the second they're locked in. So I'm like, does it really have to do with playing the game at all, or is it, they just trick them into like putting a mind control device on their face?
There's kind of an emphasis too on people experiencing things and like sensuality, I think, in the episode, because Riker could have just gone to Troy and been like, "What's up? Oh, not much. Put this in your black eyes. Check it out." But instead, we have to go through this whole thing where she's having like sex with a chocolate fudge sundae, and she's describing, in sensual, details with these, close-ups of her gorgeous face, like what she's going to do to this sundae. And then he's like, "That sounds pretty good. I'm hard as a rock. Do you want to play this game?" And it's like, they didn't have to do that. And then later on, like, if you can imagine Geordi having sex, we can't. So, like, Geordi is, like, specifically doing his Geordi thing where he's, like, super tense. He's super upset and worried about Data. And so at his point of, like, just experientiality, if that's a word, Riker's like, "I got something for that. Why don't you try this?"
Yeah, so maybe it feels like maybe it's more of a stand-in for just, like, sex and drugs, or, like, debauchery in general.
Recreation, yeah.
Yeah, and not gaming. I don't know.
You don't want to play the game where you put the Frisbees in the tubes or whatever?
The game looked terrible.
Yeah, it did.
I think it's
you've never played any 90s VR though. That's all we had.
That's true. Yeah.
There was a game back then that was I can't remember what it's called, but you're shooting pterodactyls. It's like Pterodactyl Terror or something like that. And that was basically it. It was like, if you've ever seen the Lawnmower Man, the movie.
Yeah.
A few bits down from that.
I think it's come around to be slightly more relevant again, just because there are so many cheap, garbage-looking mobile games, but like people do get like addicted to those now and like dump a bunch of like money into like buying the dumb little currencies and stuff. Yeah. But they look about as good as this actual game in the episode does, where you put the thing in the cone.
Put the thing in the cone. That's what they told me in junior high. We got to talk about Ashley Judd in this episode playing Robin Leffler. It's great casting. I think it's too bad that she was only on the show twice. She was in Darmok, the first episode of this season, and then this episode. And that's a neat character. It's really great casting, and she does a great job. I think that she is specifically trying to mimic some of Wesley's mannerisms, because she seems just like a female Wesley to me.
Yeah, a little like embarrassing. But I thought she was really good. I forgot she was in Darmok. Gotta go back to that one.
Yeah, just for a little bit. Another guest star in this is Catherine Moffat, who plays the Katarian, Tara Joel, I think her name is. Katarians would change a lot in their design. They have a real, speaking of sex, kind of vaginal forehead in this. And she's also got, this is interesting, she's got horizontal pupils. I don't know if you noticed that in any of the close-up shots.
Oh, no. I did like the design, and I like the actress a lot, too. So
yeah, she's really great. She played the vampy lady in Necessary Evil, the episode we talked about on Enterprising Individuals.
Oh, okay, awesome.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way, Quark.
Yeah, okay. All right, I like this actress. I don't know much about her other than this, but I'm a fan now. I'm a stan now, even.
She's a stan of the Katarian. What else? I like the fact that they throw a surprise party in the conference room for Wesley, and everybody's acting really weird. And I think that's more of a function of the dialogue. I don't think any of them are taken over at that point, except for Riker. But they're just all like, "Hey, oh, Wesley, oh, you're here, so great, ha ha ha!" And then Data does a fake laugh, which is hilarious.
That was
great.
But
it's not too dissimilar from their laughs. Like, it's just really forced.
I did think all of Wesley's conversations catching up with people, including in that scene, and like when he's talking to Picard later about Boothby, like I found them all kind of embarrassing, and I couldn't tell if it was like because it was just proxy to like Wesley, like they were involved.
For an actor that was on the show for so long, they are a little stiff.
Yeah, like even what the other people were saying, I felt like, oh, this just feels so weird. But I don't know. I guess if I was like catching up with some kid that I was friends with a while ago, and now he's like a young adult, you know, like I feel that way sometimes when I see like a family member I haven't seen since we were kids or something, but now we're both adults and we're like trying to like have an adult conversation.
Yeah,
it's like
I can
weird.
see that that would be weird.
I don't know if that was what it came. I couldn't figure it out. It's just weird.
They're talking about Boothby. I think this is the second time that he's mentioned in the series. We'll meet him in Voyager.
Boothby.
Yeah, and Picard's talking about how he was carving AF on the tree for a girl, I guess.
Yeah.
That's Picard AF.
Maybe he was just writing Picard AF in the tree.
And Boothby caught him.
We do know he was a little bit more rambunctious then.
Yes, he was a Hellraiser.
Yeah, what are those initials for? Do we know?
That's a good question. I bet it's in a tie-in novel somewhere.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure someone. There's like probably a whole novel about that.
Oh, Picard series. We're going to find out.
Yes, that's
the reunion with AF.
There's a whole episode to figure that out.
What else? I like the fact that we mentioned before, like his mom is trying to push this thing on him and comes in and he's on his bed with a girl. And she's like, oh, good, which is not something that you get very often. I think having your parents say something is cool is the best way to keep your kid from doing it. That was their mistake.
Oh, yeah.
You should have had Riker just be like hanging out in the corner doing it. And he's like, hey, what's that? Oh, you don't want no part of this shit. You know, like Dewey cocks him and then kind of get him into it that way.
Yeah, that would. Yeah. These, the Qatari?
Qatarians.
Yeah, they weren't thinking ahead with this.
Well, speaking of thinking ahead, what was their plan in general? Like, okay, so they've got the flagship. They've got this thing that somehow through pleasure controls everybody. But, all right, now you've got a bunch of creamy jeans slaves. Like, what's your next step in the plan?
Well, they did say now you're going to go give these to some other people.
Sure.
I don't know. I guess their plan was just to get them all mind controlled and then take their, I don't know.
Maybe it was a beneficial thing. Maybe they're like Leonard Nimoy and they just want everybody to have this and it's a non-hostile takeover. Everybody will be happy. They'll be creaming their jeans all day and that's what they're after.
Oh yeah. They're spreading a message of chilling out.
Just pleasure and Epicureanism.
Yeah, I didn't get that vibe when she showed up.
No, she seemed kind of mean.
Yeah.
I liked how in the beginning, though, we open on a weird staging of Othello or something. Like it's just like Riker in like this huge robe, and then he's chasing a girl around a room. And I'm like, wait, we always talk about never seeing what happens on Risa. Is this what happens on Risa?
Just weird. This is what they think people flirt like. I mean,
ooh, you can't catch me. And then later on, she's like, "I've got a problem, a sexy problem." Like, what are you talking about? Who wrote this? Oh, wait, Brandon Braga did.
And now he's the head honcho. So there is a great. You know how Jonathan Frakes does all the like step over the chair to sit down and all these like little quirks. He does an amazing thing when he's asking for the communicator back. I don't know if you caught this.
No.
I think this happens, or maybe I've just like dreamt this, but he puts his hand up like asking to give it back, and he does the thing where you like wave towards your hand, your hand like give it back, but he does it with just his bottom two, his pinky and his ring finger. I'm pretty sure he does that. Don't quote me on that, but I thought that was like a baller move to do. It's not enough to just like do the normal motion. He's got to have a little flair for everything.
That's kind of his Hogan wagging the finger situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Jonathan Frakes is good at coming up with gimmicks. Like, I think in another reality, he could have been a professional wrestler.
He's got the height. That's for sure.
Yeah, he could probably beef up pretty well too.
Yeah, he'd be one of the big guys for sure. Yeah. There's another cool thing, which is seeing Wesley go like Junior MacGyver on it. He's got like security programs like Trojans, set up in the Enterprise.
Oh, yeah.
He's got the beam out thing. He knows to get rid of his communicator. And then he does that thing where I don't know where he got the pocket phaser from, but he sets it up to shoot the force field. So they're like, oh, he must be down there, but he's way somewhere else.
That was cool. Yeah, I liked the transporter thing he had.
Yeah.
I thought that was, people complain about Wesley being too clever sometimes, but I was like, yeah, Wesley's a smart guy.
There was a memo that was sent by Michael Piller, who was an executive producer at that point, and it was on the advisement of Rick Berman at this time. You can see this on Larry Dr. Nemechek's Trek Files page. It's a memo about how there needs to be less sex in Trek. And it was sent out in I think the summer of 91, so it wouldn't have affected this script or other scripts. But it basically says, we've gotten too sexy. This is an innocent show that's on at 5 o'clock, in weekdays in people's houses. We don't need to see this. We don't need to see people giving massages, with oil or whatever. Knock that off, but you can still make sex jokes, I guess. And this is probably like the last episode, being like 7th or 8th in line, to have gotten through before that edict came into effect. And I disagree. I think there should be sex in Trek, but yeah, I can see what he's talking about. There's a lot of ooey gooey, no offense, stuff in this episode.
Yeah, this is a pretty horny episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of like the, we need to not talk about sex or whatever. My buddy Tim, at Tim Fastic on Twitter, little shout out there.
Sure.
He has a theory that he posts about it every once in a while, about how they use chocolate as a stand-in for like being horny in Next Gen.
So much. Yeah.
Or maybe that's not even a theory, but he likes to talk about that a lot. And when I was watching this, I tweeted at him and I was like, "Yep, watching a classic horny chocolate episode."
Oh, Troy, fucks. Yeah, we're going to talk about the episode "The Price" on Enterprising Individuals pretty soon, and that's the episode where the insurance salesman guy, comes on board and just rocks her world. And then she goes and does aerobics with Crusher in that infamous scene. And at the very beginning of that episode, she's like stressed and she's trying to unzip her uniform. She's like, "Computer, just make me a chocolate sundae." And then the computer's like, "You're on a diet. You can't have a chocolate sundae." And so it's like, yeah, that is, sexual frustration.
So maybe it's like when they send out a different stand-up to like warm up the crowd. It's like the chocolate is there to warm you up. Her being horny for the chocolate is there to warm you up for the real sex. That's my theory.
All right, thanks everybody. That's my time. I'm at Hershey'sHilarity.com, and up next, you're gonna love it. He's got plenty of discs, plenty of worms. It's the game.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Well, anything else you want to say about this episode before we move to our technological exchange?
I once again was thinking about how, if I compare our like protagonists or whatever, how I think they're more vulnerable in their movies they're based on. Like we were talking about how he's just like a health inspector in Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
And then we see Wesley has all these like cool Trojan horses and stuff. And, he there's no doubt he can handle this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Nerds are going to save the day here every time.
So they did turn Data off, so that's pretty freaky when you get to that point.
That is weird. There's a story about how Brent Spiner was doing that scene where he falls down, and I think he is in frame the whole time when he falls down, and he hit his chin on the bio bed. Yeah, and it was bad enough that he had to like go to the hospital and get checked out.
Oh, buddy.
And so he was all right, and then he came back, and the first thing the director did was like, "So can we do that scene again?"
Oh, you get the most authentic falling down, though.
Yeah, right.
Well, I guess if he
you're grimacing in pain, so we can't use that one. But you got another one, don't you, buddy?
Oh, and you know what? The flashing light part, that was a little too much.
Oh, really? I thought that was cool.
It was just it bothered me. Kayla had to close their eyes. Let me know when it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the concept. It was just like literally just like this hurts.
Yeah. Yeah, they would have had a warning at the beginning of that episode today for sure.
Right, yeah.
Well, something that makes Trek is its technology. We've been talking about video games in the world of Trek, which I think is a probably good subject for future episodes of certain podcasts. But on this episode, we like to switch it around a little bit and see if the technology of Trek's time would change the plot of the movie that was the inspiration for the episode. So let's get back to our table. We've got, I'm reminding our listeners, because we don't have a website where you can look it up. It's maybe we could build it into a logo somehow. Like there's a 10-sided star, and then we write the things on. I'm trying to see how we can communicate this information. To
maybe
people.
we get like a 3D object you can interact and spin it around and look at all the sides.
Yeah. If Space Jam, the new Space Jam film, doesn't have like a 3D website, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Oh, it's got to look 3D, yet somehow like it's from 1996.
Real low res, right.
Yeah.
Well, okay, looking at our table, we've got phasers, holodecks, tricorders, transporters, warp drive, replicators, communicators, shields, the advanced medical technology enjoyed by the Enterprise and androids. I'm going to roll the die, and I came up with 2. I got holodecks. So if you added holodecks, or I suppose holograms, holographic technology, to Body Snatchers, how does it change?
Oh my gosh. Well, so there's already the element of like what
is real?
What can you trust? Yeah. If you have that in there, depending on whose side has it, then you run into even more sticky situations, I think.
Did you see the Total Recall remake starring Colin Farrell?
I didn't see that one, no.
Me neither.
I saw the... Great.
But the reason I bring it up is because I think that it deals more with the sort of change or corruption of reality than the first one. Like in the first one, his memories, he's not sure what's real and what's not. And I think they sort of play with like what is like literally real and what isn't in that one.
Okay, so we could have had a Total Recall on our hands, is what you're saying.
Yeah, people could be total holograms. Maybe they're replaced with things that are actually not actually real.
You could do a whole it could be like a Truman Show, but with holograms.
Yeah.
That'd be a cool movie, I think.
Yeah, and Jeff Goldblum and Veronica Cartwright would be running like a holodeck instead of a mud bath. You would just go and relax in the in the Lexana Troy mud bath instead of having to rub down some fat guy.
Yeah, that could be cool too, because you could, if you want to go with like the limitations of it too, like you could play around with how they have like the Doctor in Voyager, where he's kind of limited to stuff too, like that. Yeah, I don't know. That could be its own movie. That sounds fun.
Speaking of Voyager, and maybe I'm giving the game away here, but there is an episode of Voyager called Projections in which the Doctor becomes convinced that he is the person who created him, that he is Louis Zimmerman and he's experiencing a delusion. And it's basically that scene from Total Recall where the guy comes in and is like, you're just strapped to the thing still, you're not on Mars, for 45 minutes.
Oh, that sounds cool.
It's not as cool as it sounds. It's not a great episode.
Bummer.
Maybe we can talk about it in the future sometime.
Or they're like, people are like, oh, what if reality was just like a simulation, man?
Yeah. Yeah. I often wonder, I think that it would blow the minds of people in the 70s, but they'd also really love it because they were really into thinking about that kind of stuff. And going off that Voyager episode and just the existence of the holodeck, I often wonder how that has changed the lives of people in the 24th century. Like every time you have a bad dream or your girlfriend is breaking up with you, do people kind of under their breath say like computer and program to like make sure that they didn't somehow become trapped in some kind of holographic fantasy?
Yeah, now it's like there's at least one movie a year that's about that. So I think people are always thinking about it to the point where if you have to do something more with it, or people are like, yeah,
the ultimate gaslight.
Yeah, exactly.
If we remove holodecks from the episode, the game, it doesn't change much. I don't think anybody goes on the holodeck. But if we remove holograms, does that change anything? Does the game have to be something else? Do we now bring in the ball and cup that can cause you to orgasm?
That would be an interesting episode too if they got addicted to an analog game.
Yeah.
I can see an episode of the original series where they get addicted to that weird 3D chess that they're playing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you have to wonder what if there are board games beyond 3D chess. Like, is there a real kick-ass version of Catan in the 24th century?
Oh yeah, what are they? Yeah, because we only ever see them playing like I feel like there's like war games they do or holodeck games.
We do see that one game, Stratagema, in that second season episode.
That's that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, Data plays against Kohlrami or whatever his name is.
They play poker. I mean,
they play a ton of poker. That's their analog game. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the game, and also it would also create an episode that I think would hold up a little bit better, or like in people's minds, because I think that was part of what I was thinking of too when I was thinking of like making fun of the episode, is just that it has this like really stupid looking game, but it's like I get the struggle of like how do we portray a video game that people play in their eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they did their best. If you take, the holograms and light projection away, it's literally a Skinner box. It's literally you hit the button, you get the treat, or the jolt to your pleasure center, and like that's what it is.
It's an idle game, essentially.
It's a clicker. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Everybody on the Enterprise is just walking down the hallways. Click, 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 click.
That's a good episode idea, too. Everyone gets into a clicker.
We never find out what everybody's high score is, if there is one. And this is the 90s paradigm of gaming, so I'm sure there's a score still. But Nurse-Ogawa's real good at that game. She's on like level 47.
Oh yeah, the levels. What level are you on? Yeah.
Maybe she had the weekend off or something, or maybe they're trying to say something about her propensity for self-gratification, but she's way up there on that game.
I'd like to see them do a more video game oriented episode, just because I think we've talked about it before. It's like I'm always interested in what they're doing in their leisure time,
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Assuming you and I are still who we're supposed to be, let's talk about what's coming up on next week's episode of BackTrekking, which might not actually be next week. Both you and I are having summer vacations here, so it'll be up probably pretty soon.
We got a lot going on. A lot of these
for sure.
Conventions and all that to get to. So next week we are talking about the 1957 classic. Is it a classic movie? Do people consider it a classic?
Absolutely.
Okay. The 1957 classic, The Enemy Below. Not Enemy Below. The Enemy Below. Classic World War II submarine film.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic. It's got Robert Mitchum in it. What do you want?
Yeah, I had not seen it until watching it to prepare, so it's a new experience to me once again. So
yeah,
and it's pretty excited about it.
Certainly of a time. Like if you wonder, if you wonder if somebody wouldn't remember it, it's because this specific thing, the idea of a cat and mouse game between a destroyer, and a submarine, is so like post Cold War. Like that's just where that fits.
Yeah, and some of the themes of it are interesting too. So
yeah. And, of course, all that gets ported into the original series episode that it was based on, or that was based on it, Balance of Terror.
Yes. Oh, yeah, of course. And we'll see how... Well, we'll get into it. I don't want to spoil the episode.
Don't give the game away.
Yeah.
We'll keep that for next week. And that's it for this week's BackTrekking. Thanks for listening. If you like the show, listeners, tell a friend. That's really the best way to get the word out about the show. Let people know that you like it. Follow us also at BackTrekking on Twitter. Don't look for that website. It doesn't exist yet, but I don't know. We'll see. Tell us on Twitter if you think that we should have a website. Tell us, too, what you think that we should look at in future episodes, because we're always looking for episode ideas and things that are based on other things and have to do with Trek. Gooey, tell the people where they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter at GooeyFame, and I think when this episode is coming out, I will be participating in the Zelda Dungeon Marathon.
Oh, yeah.
It's a weeks-long binge of every Zelda game. We got a bunch of people doing it, raising money for charity. So go check that out at twitch.tv/Zelda Dungeon.
That sounds awesome. Isn't there a Link to the Past remake coming out?
Link's Awakening remake.
Link's Awakening
coming for
remake.
Switch. So,
and which is that? The Game Boy one? Which one is that?
Yeah, that is the first Game Boy one. It was like the follow up.
They
were like,
playing,
"What if we made a Link to the Past on Game Boy?"
Yeah, that's the one I remember playing for long stretches. You can find me at Caliban on Twitter. And hey, tell you what, go check me out at Just Enough Trope. Look for those shows from the floor of Convergence and hear about the fun, and find out if you want to go, because it's worth making a trip if you're anywhere close to the Midwest area. And that is it for us this week. We're going to sign off, and we'll see you soon. And until then, keep on trekking.